Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Small Country with the Wiki Comic Roundup. We've covered first half of this week's Marvel books. Now it's on to, well, the rest of them. Kicking things off with Avengers Number 52. Where we'd left off, the multiversal Masters of Evil were attacking Earth 616. I don't remember what... I think it's King Killmonger, as well as Lady Phoenix, all attacked Asgard. They both attacked Asgard. But the issue begins at a funeral in Shawnee, Kansas. Cap, the Cap was the sole pallbearer at a World War II veteran's funeral. Only surviving, only person who's still alive that knew him from the war. And Captain Marvel and Starbrand have come along as well. We learned that apparently Starbrand was sneaking out of the mountain and occasionally attacking aliens that end up on Earth. Alien criminals doing shady shit on Earth, not like just some Skrull refugee huddled in a in an alleyway in Manhattan. But there was a reason why Cap invited Starbrand, though, since Shawnee, Kansas was, since Starbrand's mother lived in Kansas City on Strawberry Hill, but Cap takes the Starbrand to her mother's house, and it kind of has an effect on her. However, when Starbrand decides she wants to go in and maybe touch something of her mother's, a handful of Deathlocks show up. And are promptly killed by the Vengeance Bomb, as Ghost Goblin and Black Skull attack, going after the Deathlocks as well as Starbrand and the Captains America and Marvel. The multiversal Master will make short work of the Deathlocks, and however, they're not really prepared for Starbrand. And so Black Skull and Ghost Venom vanish, or retreat. And we find out and it turns out that the more Starbrand uses her powers, it allows her to age up faster. As the issue ends with a teenage Starbrand hovering before Captains America and Marvel. Good issue, and it's interesting. I guess what they're trying to kind of say is that the host of the Starbrand ages faster based on how much of the how much of the Starbrand's power they use. So it's also interesting to note that the Starbrand child, is aware that she is supposed to be Earth's line of defense, and stopping potential alien invaders and whatnot is kind of in line with that. So yeah, but yeah, it does feel a little disjointed from the previous issue. The multiversal Masters of Evil are there, sure, as well as the Deathlocks, but it doesn't feel as connected as it should to the last couple issues. But hopefully by the end of the Death Hunters arc, it will feel more cohesive, I guess. Moving on to our next book, though, we've got Phoenix Song Echo, number 4. Where we left off, in the past, Echo and River encountered a woman who was, in fact, a previous her time's host of the Phoenix Force. And she helped Echo basically take the adversary into the White Hot Room. So the issue begins. Echo wakes up in her apartment. River's there making her breakfast. She has a gallery opening. And she gets the occasional headache. Back in the agency of Cahokia, River comes to and the Phoenix at the time explains what's happened. And explains that she knows that River helped the adversary. In the White Hot Room, Echo's gallery opening is going well, and there's one painting that gives her the creeps, though. It's a painting of hers, but still gives her the creeps. It's apparently a painting of the adversary's face. But a friend of hers heard talking, and there's a fire across the street, so Echo goes to save. Echo decides she's going to go save the people caught in the fire. Superheroes won't get here soon enough. And she explains that she truly felt alive, but she got secondary burns on one of her hands. And back in the past, the Phoenix of the past tells River that the best way for him to get to the White Hot Room is by a sacrifice of himself. In the present, at River's home, Forge is investigating, already realizing that already having felt the adversary's presence, but then River appears with a knife in his chest. Forge falls back on his medicine man ways and is able to figure out what's happened, and also decides to employ some of his own mysticism for dealing with the adversary. In the White Hot Room, Echo and River lay in bed as the adversary watches. And that is where the issue ends. It's something interesting series. It'll be interesting to see how it concludes. It's nice. It's kind of cool seeing the adversary back. The adversary's big storyline was, if I remember correctly, Fall of the Mutants. But and which Fall of the Mutants came out before I got into comics, so I never actually read it. I kind of got the at best cliff notes from mentions in 90s X-Men books, because Fall of the Mutants was kind of a big deal. But anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got She-Hulk number 1. I'm going to say I love that we got a couple corner boxes on this month's books for this week. Silver Surfer and She-Hulk both. A corner box, for those who aren't unaware, is this up here. Way Marvel historically did corner boxes, you'd have the Marvel logo, and then if it's a solo book, you have a smaller version of a recognizable piece of art, usually by a prominent artist who worked on the title previously. For example, during in the 90s, Spider-Man titles the corner box of Spider-Man books would often have either Mark Bagley or Todd McFarlane artwork. If it's a team book, then you get just like some close-up, just headshots of some of the team members. Or sometimes, sometimes a miniaturized version of a team shot. But yeah, so it's something. It's one of those things I really appreciate. Just if nothing else, on nostalgia for nostalgia reasons. Anyway, She-Hulk. So after the events of World War, She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters was back to the She-Hulk we all know and love. And even back to lawyering, which she's on her way to her law office when she's stopped by Titania, longtime adversary of She-Hulk, and well, Titania's there to start a fight. She wants to start a fight she wants to fight She-Hulk because apparently She-Hulk's back normal. So hey, why not everything back normal, right? But and so during the fight, Jen makes a point of slipping out of her suit. It's the only suit she's got before hulking up, and She-Hulk beats on Titania and not throws her into a dumpster, and they talk, and it's just like Titania's kind of pissed that She-Hulk's had a lot of successful chances at reinventing herself, whereas Titania really hasn't. And so, but She-Hulk says, "Are we done here?" And Titania's like, "You know the rules. We ain't done till the cops take me away." And so She-Hulk says, "What if I didn't call the cops, though?" And so they decide, hey, why not just, you know, and they both admit they kind of enjoy fighting each other because they don't have to hold back. And so they decide that they will, at least on occasion, get together and, slug it out in like a vacant lot or something. But in Chelsea, Jen arrives running late at the firm she's been hired on to, working for a woman named Mallory Book, best lawyer in New York, and a former Miss Utah. Her office is a glorified filing closet. And it turns out that at least Jen's got a place in New York. It's owned by Janet Van Dyne, and it's where Jen has holed up on multiple occasions. And in fact, Jen even mentions that she never cleaned the place out after the last time Jen was living there, so she's probably still got plenty of clothes there. She does, but so Jen is opposite to take a bath. However, there's a crash from outside, and in her living room is standing Jack of Hearts. Just see a long dead, not really long dead, but a deceased member of the Avengers, who probably collapses on her floor. Just a heads up, this is Jack of Hearts' return is actually related to an upcoming story that we will be covering on the Roundup in the coming months. A Fantastic Four story entitled Reckoning War, in which Jack of Hearts is primed to be playing a major role. And that is where the issue ends. Good start. I really like the whole thing with Titania and She-Hulk. It made for a fun point. I think Titania has had some interesting evolutions over the years, I guess, on how she's written. I remember early on, after Jane Foster became Thor. She fought Titania, and they duked it out, and then Titania kind of. I don't remember. There was a big deal about the fact. I remember that there were some chuds making a big deal about the fact that Titania was kind of professing a degree of solidarity with Jane because women in costume, basically kind of women in costume are still kind of marginalized. So yeah, it was an interesting thought, and I really liked. I especially liked how that this and She-Hulk went with. She-Hulk saying, "Hey, why don't we just get together and beat the hell out of each other on occasion? We both like doing it. We don't seem to dislike one another, but we like beating the hell out of each other. So why not?" It was a fun little concept, and I hope it pans out into future issues. Moving on to our next book, though, we've got Amazing Spider-Man number 86. We're back to focusing on Ben for Spider-Man Beyond, and we begin with a therapy session. But Ben is hesitant about talking to Dr. Kafka. We get a flashback where earlier Ben went after a costumed villain and started a fire in a more than century-year-old building. And he's a bit flippant about things, which Dr. Kafka says isn't like him. But turns out that after the fight with Dr. Octopus, which started in the last issue, Ben took the drive that Doc Ock had and gave it to Janine, claiming it had been destroyed. But Janine's curious about it. But turns out that Ben is rather hesitant to talk to Dr. Kafka because she works for the Beyond Corporation. And he doesn't trust him anymore. And she tells Ben that she doesn't trust him either. But it turns out that Maxine Danger has cameras and mics in the office, and so she's watching everything. The text asks if they should turn the mics off, and well, Maxine says they don't want to miss anything important. But it's explained that the drive included Doc Ock had broke the encryption on the drive, and the Beyond dossier was right there. It explained that Beyond thinks of Ben as having a more malleable morality, personally less defined, a hunger for meaning that makes him easily manipulated. And Dr. Kafka figures that Ben must have felt very misunderstood, and he actually says no. It's like they understood me completely. And he's always felt there was something wrong with him. Saying it goes with the territory, but Dr. Kafka finishes the sentence with "when you're a clone." But he's wondering how she knows, and because he never told anyone, but said that he told Beyond Corporation about how he was resurrected and killed again and again by the Jackal before taking on the Jackal title himself. And then, in fact, Ben cloned Dr. Kafka, brought her back. Apparently, Ben doesn't remember his time as a Jackal. As explained, Beyond wanted their Spider-Man to be squeaky clean, so members of the Jackal's abuse made it more complicated. So his mind was wiped clean. But Janine opens the drive to find out what she can. It's not clear what she's learned, but she makes the point of getting a knife handy. And while Ben and Dr. Kafka are talking, she explains that well, um, Ben states that as chaotically diversified as Beyond is, everyone there is in danger, and they got to protect themselves. But Ben is tranked, and Maxine is orders him ready for memo surgery. Meanwhile, Janine has called. He's got Marcus up there, puts the knife she got from the kitchen into his throat. Because, well, she needs to get out. But the memo surgery, it's revealed that it takes away the memories of Ben's talk with Otto. But something goes wrong, and his memory basically, it's explained his memory is not being demolished, it's collapsing. Meanwhile, Marcus has been coerced into helping Janine leave the building by his security with his security bona fides, but and Maxine just says that's fine. Not so much not knowing that Maxine's with him, or that Janine's with him, but yeah, that Marcus is leaving. And that is where the issue ends. Things are definitely getting interesting. I kind of figured that from the get-go on this story that the Beyond Corporation was going to turn out to be kind of the big villain because it's the Beyond Corporation. Anyway, moving on to our next book, though, we've got Miles Morales' Spider-Man, number 34, which also ties in with Spider-Man Beyond. So where we left off, Miles and Shift were doing some digging, trying to find the Assassin's hideout. Looked like they'd found it. They fought their way inside. When they get inside, however, it's just kind of everything's fake doors. But Shift is pretty good at making doors where there aren't usable ones by punching the wall. A bunch of robots come out, and so Miles and Shift deal with them. Made their way to the next hallway, which is identical to the one they were just in. And so, Shift punches another hole in the wall. They start making their way through. They come upon... Basically, they end up in a room that's designed to overstimulate spider senses. Then they come upon Quantum. They deal with him, but he manages to escape. But they're then forced to kind of relive a lot of what they went through at the hands of the Assessor. But turns out since they've got each other, they're not. It's kind of they don't have to deal with it alone. They don't have to deal with the memories of it alone anymore. And then the Assessor arrives. Stating that Shift and Miles are to be liquidated immediately. And that is where the issue ends. I have to wonder if the Assessor is a part of the Beyond Corporation or not. That would kind of that would make a degree of sense, I guess. kind of how they utilized the assessor to assess Miles to see if they should approach him to be their Spider-Man. I mean, it makes sense. Moving on to our next book, though, we've got Ben Reilly's Spider-Man #1. This is set back during the 90s Clone Saga, kind of an Untold Tales type of thing. But we get a rundown of Ben's past. He, while walking along and some of the events of the Clone Saga, while walking along the street in New York, he passes by J. Jonah Jameson, who mistakes him for Peter. But a news report comes up stating that apparently there have been a bunch of murders occurring of young women on first dates. Also, it turns out that Spider-Man villain Carrion has escaped from Ravencroft. So Ben goes to deal with Carrion and actually manages to calm him down. He's taken back to Ravencroft, and we had an interlude with another woman being on a first date who it looks like is going to be yet another victim of this first date killer. Dr. Kafka tries to talk Ben into talking to her, but he explains that he doesn't do friendship. At his job at the Daily Grind, he hears about the killings on the news, and talks about that with one of the regulars. That night, while in bed, however, he wakes up feeling something on him. Initially thinking that it was a roach, but it's not a roach. It's a scorpion. And in fact, standing above him is Scorpion. And that is where the issue ends. Fun book. I really like the fact that they made a point of kind of going over the important beats of the Clone Saga pertaining to this. I didn't mention, but Janine is mentioned in there having been injured and hospitalized because of during things. So, but anyway, moving on to our last book for the moment, we've got Venom #4. Where we left off, Eddie Brock's old ally Archer had betrayed Dylan, and he was in the clutches of the Life Foundation, who had just given one of their soldiers a new suit of powered armor to take on symbiotes. The Spearhead armor. So the Venom symbiote, it picks up a scent, so to speak, from being left by Sleeper, and concludes that Dylan's in trouble and needs his help. But Spearhead attacks. His spear it's explained later in the issue, acts like a giant tuning fork, and it makes it harder for him to maintain for the symbiote to maintain shape and whatnot. So, but Liz Allen is experimenting on Dylan. All of the symbiote samples I've got seem to deteriorate when they're exposed to Dylan. But the symbiote manages to get away from Spearhead, and Spearhead is called off by Carlton Drake, saying, "Hey, look, let it go. We want to observe it. What happens to it?" But the symbiotes that are being held by the Life Foundation all get loose, with Eddie having taken them over and helping. Dylan get loose, who explains that Archer betrayed him, and so basically Eddie just says then you don't really only trust the symbiote because you with everything, there's still a bit of me in there that will always protect you. And the symbiote shows up at the Life Foundation and bonds to Dylan, with everyone looking on horrified. Which is, meanwhile, it turns out that Meridius is talking with Carlton Drake, explaining that nothing. Meridius has left nothing to chance. It should also be stated that apparently, when Eddie showed up to talk to Dylan, Eddie informed him that Kang was wrong. Okay, so that's going to be an interesting point to see. But the issue ends with Meridius releasing another symbiote to go out to scare Dylan. A massive red symbiote by the name of Bedlam. And that is where the issue ends. Venom's been also really good so far. I'm a little saddened that even I'm not complaining. I like Ram V's writing style. I'm just a little saddened that it's not Ram V and Al Ewing working together. So, yeah. A little bit of Ewing is always nice, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.